So I'm here. This is actually supposed to be a video dealing with something that I heard last night. It's supposed to fall in the self love category of whatever it is that I like to do in sharing whatever insights and things that I get from the Most High and from the Spirit. And so, but what wound up happening was I wound up wanting to play in my makeup too. So it is going to be a makeup. It's not a tutorial at all. I'm just you're going to be watching me put on my makeup, but I'm also going to be talking about that thing that the Spirit reminded me of uh, last night. So I'm going to hurry up and hop into that because I don't have much time. Um, my boo thing will be getting off in probably like an hour. And what I definitely want to do is be finished with recording before then so that all my focus and attention can be on my boo thing. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Now, anyone, if you don't know me, it's okay, it's fine. But I'm going to just say this real quick. Like everything that I talk about on my page, on any of my posts and all that type of stuff is usually about self-love. And it has been about self-love for the past year. If I'm paying attention and if I'm honest, self-love for me has been the name of the game for about a year. Okay, so in the process of time, there are people via Facebook and other mediums of, I don't know, sharing information who have seen videos from me that range from relationships and all that type of stuff to prophetic utterances and all of that, right? I believe that I started really, really going through this process of self love last year. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I feel like I loved myself already, but I mean, really, I was kind of like catapulted into this learning about true self love. And so, let me explain what I mean about true self love real quick. I think I'm about to be through with this little makeup stuff because, yeah, I'm pretty much already finished. Pretty much. We're going to keep it real simple. So, the idea of self love. I know that some people may think that it's, all these feelings of, oh, hold on, I got to cut this off too. It's going to bother me. All these feelings of being happy or, just being jovial, doing things that you love to do. And listen, while that is definitely a part of self love, self discovery, and self healing, it is not the only part. And in fact, you cannot get to the self love, the self appreciation, the self healing until you go through this part that this video is really about today. So here we go. The message that came to me last night, it was late last night. It was inspired by something that something that my husband was dealing with. And it's gonna seem so simple, and I love it because this is how I feel that Spirit speaks to us really all the time. Some of us miss what Spirit is saying because we think it's supposed to be this super big, elaborate thing. All right, finish with the makeup. So my husband he had an ingrown hair. And he had been asking for my help with it and stuff like that. Now, I've never had to get it out for anybody else. I mean, I've had my own or whatever, but never had to get it out. And so, something that I noticed was this. And I hope and pray that the Father will help me to correlate everything that I'm saying to different stages that we as a people and that individuals we can go through and identify with when we're not dealing with something that we need to deal with versus when we recognize something that we need to deal with and stuff like that. So here we go. So my husband had this ingrown hair. He had already asked me to help him with it before, and I tried and was unsuccessful. Um, so he asked me again last night before bed. And so, I wanted to do something specifically for him, and he was ready for this ingrown hair to be out because it's been bothering him for a number of days and probably longer than the days that I'm thinking of. So he was as calm as he could be, but he was still getting a little frustrated with me because I was going to ask him to put it off for another 2 days by asking. I suggested that he put like a hot towel on his face over the period of 2 days, and so that maybe it could, like, I don't know, somehow draw it out, kind of like what you do if you have a boil of some sort. And so what I paid attention to was my husband got a little frustrated with that because, you know, he's been waiting already for my assistance, number one, which this is what I'm going to correlate the assistance that he was thinking that he would get from me is his healing, right? He had been waiting for his healing, waiting for his help that could kind of come through me for a while, longer than what I may know. So when he was asking me this time, he wasn't wanting to wait another 2 days. So when he responded to me, you know, I knew that he was frustrated, and when he didn't really lash out, but what I'm going to correlate the way that he responded to was a lashing out. Now, here's the difference. There are some people, I'm going to put it out like this. There are some people who are hurting. Nobody can see what they're struggling with, but the way that they interact with other people on the daily, clearly, even if you don't deal with them all the time, when you have enough interactions with them, the way that they act with other people, the way that they respond to each other begins to show you that there is something more going on with them. They're coming from a hurt place. They lash out a lot. If they're not, even if the lashing out is not necessarily really malicious, it's something. Like I've spoken about this before. You've got the people who act like they're victims all the time. Oh, this is happening to me. How come people don't believe me? Whatever the situation could be, they are the victim. Something is happening to them and they don't understand why. Or you've got the people who are still in victim mode, but they pretend like they understand their situation. And it's still always outside of themselves. It's never them. It's always someone else or something else. For example, you have some people who are in different predicaments, but they'll say that, oh, the enemy is attacking them. Or they will say that, that they're being tried and tested. This is how some people respond to certain things. This is how some people even lash out. Okay. And then other people are mean. Other people are nasty. Other people demean and degrade other people because of the real issues that are going on within themselves. So I hope I've made that clear. So the way that my husband responded, I counted it like a mini kind of lashing out, but it wasn't rude or anything. He was just like, I already been waiting a couple days. I don't want to have to wait anymore. So I was like, okay. So I knew that was a wrap. But the thought that came to me as I was going up the stairs to go take my shower for the night was that there are some things that we have to go through in order to get to our healing. Okay? There are some things that are inevitable. In order for you to get to your healing, you have to go through this particular pain. So in the case of my husband right now, he was going to have to go through this process of me pricking his face with a needle or tweezers in order to get this ingrown hair, whether it was 1 or 2 or whatever. Okay? There was no way that he could get around this. And so just to apply this to just any type of situation, I'm pretty sure whoever's watching, boom, you already know what I'm talking about. You already can apply it right now to something that you're probably dealing with or something that you have dealt with. There are some things that there's no way around it. You have to go through it in order to be healed, period. So what I want to encourage people to do is this self-evaluation that I keep talking about now for for a few months, as far as I'm concerned. This the self evaluation process is paramount to your self love and your self healing process. If you do not go through that ugly, hurtful, mean, possibly nasty, uncomfortable, very painful and strenuous sometimes stage of self-evaluation and being honest with yourself and really picking yourself apart from top to bottom, you will not make it to the self-healing or self-love process. And if you can't make it through this process for yourself, you will not be able to love anybody else effectively. You will never be able to be honest with anyone else because you can't with yourself. And you will be a person who consistently lashes out at other people. I'm convinced that our nation as a whole, as people, first and foremost, we really, really, really need to do this because we can't really love each other because we don't really love ourselves. And then the bad thing about that is that the people who are actually going through these processes, who they're taking the time to get to themselves, it's not always pleasant to be by yourself. Nobody really all the time desires to, oh, I want to be alone. I want to be this loner. There may be some people who act like that's something that they want, but that's not true. However, there is a time and a place to steal away to yourself, not just so you can be like, oh, I got to stay away from people because people hurt me and I get misused and mishandled and abused. No, I'm not talking about for that. I'm talking about to look at yourself, to look at the things that cause you to operate, to think, to move or not move the way that you do or don't do, and then to see if it's healthy for you. See if it's beneficial at all to you and anybody that's connected to you. Ugh, this wasn't the way that I wanted to go. It was another, I was thinking about some other things. So many different things came to me with this subject. But the self-evaluation needs to happen first of all, on a daily basis. But if you are going through something or and you've been going through it for like a while, it's been a cycle for you. If you step back and you look at yourself and you realize that at a certain time every year this tends to happen to you, or you tend to do this, or you tend to act this way or whatever, then you've got to look at yourself and you've got to try to figure out, where is this really coming from? What is the root of this situation? And not just to talk about yourself, not just to point it out, to actually do something about it, something beneficial, something beneficial for you. So I'm telling you guys, this is so important. In my self-love and self-healing journey, this had to be brought into my mind because of a relationship that seemed to have failed. But all praises to the Most High. That was just the catalyst to get me on my journey of looking at myself, of not just pretending or not just having this first face on, but really operating and having to, it wasn't even just about falsity. It was the fact that the Father was wanting to propel. Spirit was trying to guide me onto something more, where I'm okay with being stuck with something else. I'm okay in a whole nother mind frame, but the spirit world is trying to push me on forward. And I'm sitting here still stuck back there. And I was stuck in a comfort zone, and it took something that looked like a failed relationship to shake me to my freaking core. It made me question everything about myself. It made me question whether or not I was listening to the Father at all, or who was guiding me, which is another topic that came up. A lot of people try to use religion as an excuse to not actually operate in self-love. I'm going to tell you what I mean. People think that now the part of self-love that I'm going to talk about is that part where you are focused only on yourself, not on anybody else but you. So right now I'm going to use myself. There was a time where I had to focus solely on Jude. And I'm talking about for years before this happened to me. Anytime that the Spirit was telling me that I needed to focus on myself and that I needed to do things for Jude, somehow I always managed to make it seem like, no, that's not the right thing to do. I need to give of myself to other people. I need to consistently give, even though I don't have too much and nothing to give or offer. I need to consistently put others before me. That's the right thing to do. And it's not. It's not the right thing to do. And I'm going to tell you, I grew up Christian. I grew up Southern Baptist. And then before that, after that, I became just non-denominational. But the religion was still Christian. And we always say that we are followers of Christ. That's what a Christian is supposed to be, a follower of Christ. But yet, so few of us actually really follow his footsteps. Let me explain what I mean. There was a time frame in Christ's life where he had to get by himself and focus on himself. And he actually did that quite often. It wasn't just a one-hitter quitter. It was actually a couple times he would have to do this. He would, of course, give of himself whatever he was receiving in those times that he was stilled away to himself and the spirit of the Most High, of the living God, could speak to him. But he was by himself. He wasn't just by himself doing nothing. He had to battle with himself. He didn't have no other enemies outside of him. It was first him, the demon in him, the opposer of the Spirit of God in him. And he had to master that by himself first. And then he began to show other people how to do the same thing. People do not really recognize that, and they oftentimes use religion as a crutch to literally not do anything for themselves. That was another thing that came out. We have used God as this vague entity who does all the work quietly somehow behind the scenes on our behalf, and we do little to nothing. Most of us are doing nothing. I have to be honest. And I can say that with all assurance. I don't have to ask anybody. I wasn't doing anything for myself. I kept thinking that me not doing anything for myself was actually me depending on God. I'm not here bashing the Father today. I'm not here bashing the Messiah today. I'm just trying to tell you guys, and I'm trying to hopefully enlighten and awaken some of my fellow warriors and sisters in the faith to realize that, you know what? The Most High is truly in each and every one of us. And in order to have the mind of Christ, that would mean that we have to go into ourselves and we have to ascend and we have to master ourselves and then teach other people how to do the same exact thing. Mastery of self. Let me explain what that means. Whatever demons and things that you are battling with, those demons were not just there to hurt you and to make you this victim and to make you this person who's fearful of everything, or to make you this person that's super prideful, malicious, hateful, perverse. That's not what it was there for. It was there so that you could have to overcome these things by the Spirit of the living God that is in you and me. And when you master that, you will have reached your higher self, your highest being, your highest potential. But we get stuck in that hurt. And a lot of people wallow there. We remain there. We may tiptoe out of it for like a little while, but there's always some residue of that hurt, whether it's in fear, whether it's in how we treat other people without trusting them, without being loving truly, where we always have to have some type of agenda behind whatever it is that we're doing on behalf of other people. And we line it up with God. And we say that, oh, the reason I'm really not mastering myself is because I'm waiting on the Most High to do it. When the Father gave mankind, that be male and female, dominion over the earth, that means he gave us power. That means he gave us authority in the earth. And that's over ourselves as well as everything that he created. And the reason why a lot of the stuff is going to hell is because most of us are in hellish conditions on the inside. These are the thoughts that pretty much came from not just last night, not just the ingrown hair, But a lot of experiences that I've been experiencing and everything like that, and with my own self-love, self-help, self-healing journey, all of this was coming out. Like, I was sitting here waiting, hurt, thinking that a man who had clearly already left because he understood something that I didn't at the time, that I wasn't for him. I'm sitting here thinking that somehow he's going to come back if I just have faith enough to believe he will come back. When from the beginning, he literally like he never said that he wanted to be there from the beginning. He didn't come pursuing me. And had I stepped back and not been so focused on the desire to marry as I was, maybe I could have seen that, oh, this guy is not, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And he doesn't want to be with me. I could have probably seen that and stuck with it. I saw certain things. That's another thing about this journey. Like, a lot of us in our spirits know that something is not right with us, not with nobody else, but with us and with the way that we think. We know that something's off, like, because the spirit that's within us, that's wise, knows that it's off. It's telling us, but yet we want to live in this la la land and in this fantasy land because it disrupts what's comfortable for us. It disrupts what's familiar. And for whatever reason, what makes sense to us. And sometimes it don't make sense to us, but we want it so bad that we will try to fabricate information and twist information to make it into what we want it to be. And that is dangerous and it is very limiting. This video is getting too long. I don't want to go on that much longer, but you guys, this self-healing, self-love journey, it's not only important for me and for you, the individual. It's important too for our nation as a whole. It's important too for anybody that we love and for those who are connected to us and even for our enemies. Even for our enemies. Let me explain why I say that. An enemy to us is somebody who usually reflects things in ourselves that we actually dislike. That's in some cases when it comes to personality traits and things like that. Not just, oh my gosh, the thought just came into my head that that's the reason why we're in captivity right now. Many of our people exhibited the hatreds that we are getting imposed upon ourselves right now. We exhibited the same type of hatred to other nations around us. The same pride that we can't stand in other people, our nation as a whole had it towards the others. And okay, and so now we're having to deal with it so we can face this about ourselves and begin to operate from a different place. Once these different changes that come from having sheer love and compassion, first for yourself, who has the spirit of the living God in them, you can do it for your neighbor who also has the spirit of the living God living in them. And therefore, that love that we have for God in us and in our neighbors, that will lift up the frequency here in the earthly realm, and therefore begin to bring about peace here on earth and goodwill towards men. And then we can begin to see the kingdom of God beginning to come. But as long as everybody is not going to focus on themselves, as long as we are going to allow the wounds that came once we entered into this world like this and sin began to overtake some of us, as long as we allow those wounds to keep us ensnared and in bondage to them, because we can already be freed from them, it is literally a self-evaluation, a thought process, even a spoken word to yourself away. I want somebody to answer something. And I know that somebody may really think that, oh, this girl is jumping off the deep end. She trying to say it ain't no God. Nope. Let me tell y'all, I believe in God Most High. Yes, I do. I believe that there's a spiritual realm that we may not be able to clearly see, that's already at work. But I believe that happens for us too. We have a spirit that we cannot see that is already in constant communication with the Father. And that is who I'm trying to get us to connect to and become trustworthy with and become confident in, so that this shell that we're in can begin to operate in the way that the Spirit is saying to operate. What I was going to say was, when you pray, whether it's a silent prayer or even if it's out loud, it doesn't matter. Let me look at the time. I got to hurry up because I still got to go bust these suds. But when you pray, a lot, and I'm really going to say the silent prayers right now because, we pray them all the time. When you're in prayer, you will never hear another voice other than your own. I said it. The voice of the Spirit of the Most High God, which, remember, is at work in you, it speaks to you. And granted, there have been times where, because of our own filth, it will cause us to do things that actually go contrary to the laws of the Father. Those things still speak to the evil that's in us that needs to be purged. Because the Spirit is going to identify with the truth of the Most High God, which is really, it could be universal. It's going to be about treating yourself right and treating someone else right. It's going to be about liberation, not bondage. It's going to be pure, the information that you receive, undefiled. There'll be no bad thing that can be spoken about this thing. Anyway, I feel like I'm speaking a little vaguely there. But what I'm trying to say is this. When you pray, you never hear another voice. And the reason why is because, first and foremost, the Most High is a spirit. But that spirit already lives in you. So the next time you're praying, understand, please understand, that is like your spirit immediately in communion with the Most High. And those things that you get when you sit in quiet, those nuggets that are dropped into your spirit that sometimes rub you the wrong way, or you don't want to believe it because it goes against whatever it is that you really want to do sometimes, those are oftentimes the way that the Spirit is speaking to you, the answers that she's giving you, the wisdom that she's actually giving you. And if you actually move on those things, you'll be very surprised at how things go for you. That voice a lot of times sounds like you. And that's for a good reason. The Most High resides in us. His life-giving breath is there. And so if we tap into that and begin to obey, and we can find it in life, in scripture, and when I say find it, I mean at least examples very, very close to it, okay. But I'm saying that we have to get out of this mentality of thinking that God, this entity outside of us, is going to come here and do anything for us. It's really the opposite. He put his breath in us, and then he made us representatives of him in the earth. So anything that's going to get done here, it's going to have to be because you and I do it. So if you want to be healed, you're going to have to take the steps to actually get healed. You cannot wait on anybody else to heal you. You cannot wait on God to heal you, because he's waiting for you to make your entrance. He's waiting on you to do what you have to do to heal yourself, because he's giving you the power to do so. So without further ado, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to say shalom, peace, love, light, blessings. Listen, there are some things you got to go through. And that self-evaluation, that stuff is sometimes so painful. That, should I say sometimes? I'm going to say that's going to always hurt you. especially if you're living in a denial. If you're living in a place where you do not want to see something about yourself, it's going to hurt. And it may take you a long time if you keep on resisting it. Oh, but don't worry. The Father loves us so much that He'll allow us to keep on going in circles until we are finally ready to do the work. But in the meantime, the horrible thing about that is that we will continue walking in lies. Not only will we walk in those lies, we will spread those same lies to other people outside of ourselves, thinking it's truth. And we'll be hurting people the entire time. And that's something that we should actually be really afraid to do. But a lot of us actually are not. And we don't have the sense to know to be afraid. Self-evaluation will do that. Self-evaluation will humble you. And it will make you way more compassionate. People who are super judgmental, people who are able to lash out at folks, say whatever it is that they are big and bad enough to say without thought of the consequences. These are people who do not self-evaluate. These are people who lie to themselves even if they do. They are liars. And the bad thing about that is they'll kill too. You'll do any type of malicious act if you will lie. That's why liars will also have their part in the lake of fire. So my encouragement right now, at the end of this, all that's been said, look at yourself. Do not be afraid to face the monsters and the demons that you know good and doggone well that you got. Don't be afraid to face them. You need to face them so that you can fight them and overcome them with the mindset of Christ that you have access to already. And then when you do defeat them, you'll have a sense of joy, a sense of peace, a sense of strength, freedom. And then you'll be able to, at least on that thing that you know that you defeated, you can open up about it. There'll be no need to be ashamed about it, to cover it up, to make it seem like everything is all good. No, everything will really be all good in that area. And you can openly share your testimony and help enlighten other people and encourage your brothers and sisters who very well may be going through the same things that you just came out of. You can encourage them and enlighten them and also begin their path to healing by sharing what it is that you did. This is why we are here. This is why we're here. Not to be going back and forth with each other. All these hurt people continuously deciding to hurt each other. That's not love. That is not God. And I'm not talking about the people who are blatantly going against His laws and all that. I'm not talking about people who are, doing all of these things that the Father literally says is abominable. I'm not talking about those folks. I'm not talking about the type of love, I should say, that they be talking about. They be wanting to do whatever it is they want to do and then slap the fact that, oh, the Lord loves me on it. I'm not talking about them people. I'm talking about people who are willing to subject themselves to the will of the Father that has been plainly written out, and the love that He has for all His creation. I'm talking about people who are on a journey of creating peace here. Real peace, not fake peace, not fake love. But anyway, until next time, guys, do apologize for the length of this video. But self-evaluation is what needs to be happening on a major scale daily. And I'm talking about to those who are Christians. Self-evaluation and then some changeation. All right. Peace out, A-Town now.